Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the Russian Tier 8 Tech Tree Heavy Tank, the ISM. Now the ISM is one that you see about a little bit here and there, but it's not one that's as popular as some of the IS variants of the Russian Heavy Tank branches. And it's a very, very good tank, I think, to be honest. It's pretty solid. And that's because it's an absolute god at side scraping. It's very good at side scraping. And these days, its gun is actually pretty good since it got buffed a couple of times in some of the reforges. And it's not as much of a chore to play as it used to be. Like, I used to dislike it because the gun was exceptionally derpy. And while it was really good at side scraping, I mean, really, this is something that hasn't changed. Really good at side scraping, and the frontal armour is solid against your own tier. But as soon as you face tier 9s and 10s with 260 pen, the frontal armour on the tank becomes a bit juicy for them, and they will pen the upper plate and the lower plate quite easily. But it's still godly at side scraping, so that's a big plus for the tank, that no matter what tier you're facing, you'll still be really good at that strength. And these days, because the pen is a little bit better on the premium rounds, the accuracy is a little bit better, aim time, etc., I think the reload's a little bit better as well. We'll see in a minute when we see the buffs. It's just generally a lot nicer to play, and yeah, I've played it a little bit recently, and I think it's been quite enjoyable. And I've had a pretty successful time with the tank, really. So what did they actually buff on the ISM? Well, they buffed it twice in two reforges. The first reforge was in the Blitzkrieg reforges, the first one they did, and it got a couple of buffs to its stock stuff. On the turret rotation, when you fully upgraded it, got buffed to 28 degrees a second instead of 26. The view range went from an absolutely blind 350 to 370. Now 370 still isn't perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was, and you're a lot less blind, which is nice. You've got your reload on the stock gun went from 13.3 to 12. And the aim time from 3.4 to 3 seconds, that's on the stock. On the top gun, you went from 12-second reload to 11.2 with an aim time of 3.2 down to 2.9. That DPM buff and that aim time buff just made this gun so much nicer to use. Add in 6.0 with the crew skills and the equipment and stuff, and you have a pretty damn good time with this gun. I've really enjoyed using it, actually, because I barely played it after 6.0. But then have been playing it recently because I think someone asked for it, and I thought, I'll just give it a couple of games. And yeah, I've actually been really enjoying playing the tank, and it's pretty solid. Like I say, in terms of the frontal armour, when you're facing tier 9s and 10s, like you've already seen a 257 do it, when he saw the upper plate, it went straight through it. But if I was properly side scraping, he really would struggle to pen it, and a lot of people are like that. Your side scraping is your advantage in this tank. Side scrape if you can is essentially the, thing to do. So yeah, the two things that weren't on that list that were in a bit of a later reforge, I say reforge, it was the Soviet weaponry one that they did where they just changed a load of guns. I think they removed a stock gun on this tank, I believe it was. And they basically buffed some of the penetration. So on the gun, on the stock gun, it went from 175 pen, which was abysmal, and made the stock grind for the tank just awful. 175 pen with 217 premium was just horrible for the ISM, and really made it very annoying. But they buffed that to 190, which was definitely a hell of a lot better. And on the premium round on the top gun, they actually buffed it from 240 to 265, which again was pretty damn solid, because that 265 means that you'll be able to pen a lot of the tanks you'll be able to face tier 9, tier 10. If you're going to struggle with the previous 240 odd pen, the 265 is going to be a lot nicer to use. So in terms of a crew on the ISM, I do run a pretty typical crew for a heavy tank. Born leader, rapid reload, sixth sense, situational awareness, track mechanic, steady aim, snapshot, run and gun, off-road driving. That's just a base crew that I'd use for a heavy tank generally. Off-road driving to help me be able to reach my top speed. All the gun perks to make the gun better, because it is a heavy tank. You always want to try and make your gun better. And then stuff like track mechanic, because, well, you're a brawling heavy tank, and if you're side scraping, you'll get tracked a lot, and you want to be able to put your tracks back on as quick as possible, sometimes if you need to. But, of course, you can change that crew about as much as you want. If you feel like the turret traverse is not good enough, you can put rapid aim on. You can put safe stowage on if you think your ammo rack goes all the time. It's just a base crew that will do you pretty solidly, and if there's any little niggles with the tank that you don't like that you think you can change with other crew skills, you can just swap out the odd bit here and there, right? It's totally up to you. In terms of equipment, I do run the rammer, vert stabs, and optics. Optics to be able to spot for myself, because 370 isn't great, so you want to be able to spot for yourself. Vert stabs, because it still is pretty derpy on the gun if you don't run that sort of thing, so you want to make it as good as possible, like I say, because the strength of the tank is having this 390 alpha gun, so you want to make it hit if you can. And rammer, because naturally you always want to make your DPM better as a heavy tank, because you will be brawling a lot of the time. So yeah, this first game we're playing on Corellia, which is quite nice to have back. I think Corellia came back only recently. And we have pushed through the JK line, up to 2.5k damage, 269 assistance, and we're now pushing through the guys that went to the other flank on the enemy team. We just missed a shot on that Waffle Panzer IV, but we do end up spotting him up for our team, which gives us a bit of assistance. We take a hit from someone near the back, which I think was the other TD... I don't think it was the Corellia Jagdpanzer, it was something else. But we take a hit from the tank at the back, but fortunately we bounce a couple of shots here and there. And you've seen so far that we've managed to block 2.5k damage as well, which is pretty nice. So this tank is pretty damn good at blocking shots, especially, like I say, especially if you're side-scraping. Side-scraping is the god thing for this tank. And you can use this on to pretty good effect. So as we come up here to sort of go towards the TDs, we managed to spot the Dreadnought there at the back, and the Lycan, managed to snap the shot into the Lycan, and there's the RU. That was the thing that penned us for about 240 damage, and we're just keeping ourselves swiveling here to make sure that this guy can't quite get a shot at us, and try and help shut him down before he gets after the rest of our team. We're just being careful of this Dreadnought, because naturally the Dreadnought is going to hurt if it pens us. If it's firing 250 heat pen, it's kind of likely he'd go through our upper plate, but he's firing AP, fortunately enough, and he bounced off our turret. We were just staying low there, so we couldn't quite find a shot at us. I was just seeing what that heavy tank was that's attacking our TDs, and he gets destroyed by the Audace. There's actually another heavy tank attacking those 3 TDs, but I'm not really concerned about it, because I feel like those 3 TDs should hopefully be able to deal with it, while I deal with what's in front of me. And I know there was 2 TDs in front of me, so we're pushing up to the rock where the TDs were, because the thing is, we want to get rid of these guys, because these guys can look up at the hill, and they might start being able to shoot my TDs that are attacking that heavy tank, which will obviously cost them hit points and might change the fight in the heavy tank's favour on that regard. And we start to side scrape out against these TDs, and I realise literally at the last second and pull forward a little bit, which actually ends up saving our hit points there, because I realised at the last second that rock is blocking that Dreadnought from being able to shoot me. But unfortunately, I pulled out a little bit too far and I went, oh god, no. And thankfully, he only tracked us. We managed to side-scrape out enough to block, well, to kill the Corellia Jagdpanzer 105. Unfortunately, the Waffle Panzer IV doesn't pull out to actually be able to shoot us, and we shut down the Waffle Panzer IV as well. And that was our 4th kill of the game. We're up to 3.8k damage of 1,522 assistance. I'm like, okay, I'm going to side-scrape out again off of this rock. Side scraping out, we end up blocking the shot from the Dreadnought, because I thought, yeah, that Dreadnought's probably going to still be sitting there on that corner waiting for me to drive out and give him a free 750 hit points of damage. And thankfully for me, he ended up bouncing off our side. Well, he only tracked us, which is why I say, you know, if you can side scrape out against something, do it in the ISM, because you'll block it most of the time. As long as you don't overexpose your front, you'll be alright, because the turret armour on the front is also absolutely solid, so that'll bounce quite a lot too. So yeah, this Dreadnought is the last one on the enemy team, and he has decided, yeah, I'm not getting attacked by this T-30, so... Not T-30, this one ISM, so he's decided to run straight into the other T-30 around the back, and unfortunately we don't get another shot at him, but we do finish with the victory. 4 kills, 4.2k damage, 1,522 assistance, the ace tanker, high caliber, the steel wall for blocking all that damage, 1,946 base XP. A really nice game for the ISM. Like I say, absolutely solid tank. It's really solid at its own tier. Against tier 9s, it's solid when you're in its true environment of being able to side scrape, and against tier 10s, it's exactly the same. You just have to be careful of getting caught out in the open. Just like any other tier 8 heavy, really, against... or any heavy tank in the game, really. If you're a heavy tank in this game against a tank 2 tiers higher, you never want to get caught out in the open, because most of the time, the fact is a heavy tank is based upon its armour. But generally, armour on tanks 2 tiers lower doesn't hold up very well against the tank 2 tiers higher, right? So you have to use its strengths, and that's where side scraping is its strength of the tank, and I'll reiterate that over and over again, because no matter what tier you're against, you'll still be able to side-scrape a hell of a lot of tanks. Naturally, be careful, though, because if you decide, I can side-scrape against a Death Star, or I can side-scrape against a Sturm Tiger, yeah, they don't really fire AP or penetrating rounds all that often. They'll be firing HE, and that will hurt you. So, yeah, you just got to be careful of what you're side-scraping against. So we're in the second game. And this second game, we are on this map, which is Erlenberg. And on Erlenberg, we are pushing down the 9 line, because that's where we basically spawned. That's what happens on encounter on this map, because all of our teams spawned on this 9 line. Everyone goes down it, and most of their team will go down the 1-2 line. And I always say, for me, Erlenberg is quite an easy map to break a camp if you're on their team, because their team can push into that middle area where the cap is, stay safe, and be able to spot up anyone that's on these ridge lines where our guys are camping, and that gives their TDs the chance to farm, essentially, without getting spotted, which you do have to be careful of. But sometimes it can be good from our spawn. You just got to kind of push the tempo a little bit, to be honest. You can't just sit in camp, because if you sit in camp, it's not going to go well very often, because, like I say, if they have one person that decides to actually be able to spot, you're going to get spotted and die from the invisible TDs. So right now I'm thinking, okay, I want to push forward. I want to get rid of this Falcon, and I want to get rid of this 5100 and try and loop round the other side. So we spot this Falcon, slam a shot in on the move, and shut down the tier 8 light tank there, which is good. And I'm just looking for shots now at this IS here, because I'm thinking, he's kind of in the open. I might actually get a shot at him from over here, and we do actually get a shot at him, and Jamus manages to shut him down in the CS52 leaks. But as we're pulling forward, it's like, oh, hello, Mr. SU 130PM. I think you've made a mistake, buddy. He gets spotted, we get a nice shot into him, and he's actually slipped into the water there, and I'm thinking, well, he's either going to have to pull up in front of my gun and give me free damage, or he's going to drown there, and that'll be the end of him, and Derpenberg will claim another victim. But Derpenberg doesn't claim another victim, and he pulls out in front of us, and I'm thinking, oh, I can't quite get a shot at him, because I just fired at the 5100 to go and spot, and unfortunately I didn't hit it. But we do get a nice shot through his turret there, 312, which is kind of a low roll, and thankfully the IS manages to shut down the SU-130PM before he gets a big, hefty shell into us, because again, he's a tank destroyer that's got quite a lot of pen, and probably wouldn't really struggle to pen us when we're out in the open like that. So, thankfully, he got shut down. And again, we're making a very aggressive push. The M12 gets spotted there, and it's like, well, hello, Mr. M12. And a Hellcat. We managed to snap a nice shot on the move into the Hellcat. There's a Demolisher there, which we've got to kind of be careful of. If he's firing standard, the Demolisher will probably struggle to pen us. If he's firing premium, he will go through us most of the time. And there we end up getting hit by the Demolisher, but I think that was actually his last shell. We managed to shut down the Hellcat. And I'm looking at that Demolisher, and I was thinking, is he going to fire again? No, okay, I think that Demolisher has actually fired his whole round, all his rounds, so we managed to push forward aggressively, get rid of the M12, and he started fire again, so we're just pushing to this ridgeline over here, so he will only be able to see our turret here from this ridgeline, and while we're here, we can get shots at the back of the guys that have pushed into the cap. So we managed to get a shot into shut down that tank, which is the M48 round panzer. There we go, stumble over it. And now that round panzer's gone, we tried to slap a shot through the turret cheek of the Demolisher as we push up. Because again, we're pushing under his gun onto the ridgeline there so we can stay safe from his gun and use our best armour. And yeah, again, I tried to switch to a premium round and realised, oh, I've only got premium rounds left. That's all I've got left. We fired quite a lot in this game. And we're just looking for shots into the KV-4 over there, because again, I'm safe from the Demolisher. If the Demolisher tries to push me, I've got lots of friends who will shoot him. So I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll be fine. I can get some cheeky shots into this KV-4. That's exactly what we're going to do. And we get a nice shot into the KV-4 to shut him down and secure our 6th kill of the game. The Demolisher managed to get a shot into us as we come over the ridgeline, because naturally we flattened out a lower plate. But then he bounces one off our upper plate. He's still finding standard, so naturally he's really going to struggle to pen us. We would struggle to pen his turret front, actually, since it's been buffed without the premium. And it's like, well, I'm just going to make it so it's easy enough to pen him. We force our way onto his side, and we're just going to hug him so that he only has the turret to shoot. But unfortunately, I lazy aim it there. I should have just aimed down in manual sight, and I would have been able to shut down the Demolisher and get the 7th kill. But we actually bounced off his turret front, and we finished the game with 6 kills, 4.9k damage, 378 assistance, a bit of blocked, ace tanker, the high caliber, and the top gun. If we just hadn't been a bit lazy there with the aim and just aimed down, we probably could have actually got the kill there and got devastated. But it is what it is. Nice game for me and the platoon there, and really nice game for the ISM, which, like I say, since it's been buffed, it's had its problematic gun changed and made nicer and had better DPM. It's pretty much a nicer tank to play, and it's pretty damn solid. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Great.